Chapter 425. My Female. Oriton instinctively looked at Gu Mingming and Elvis, wondering if he would one day have a partner like Gu Mingming, who did not mind his background and was willing to act coquettishly in his arms. Even if it was just pointlessly cutting beast horns together, he could still smile so blissfully. Smile? Oriton purposely pulled the corners of his lips, wanting to show Elvis's expression, but the corners of his lips were too heavy, he could not pull them up no matter what. Leah was observing Oriton's every expression, smiling as he patted his shoulder. Are you envious? Oriton nodded. Leah, I'm envious too. Originally, she used to smile like this in my arms. Oriton glanced sideways, his eyes filled with a trace of sympathy. Leah returned a smile. Mingming did not abandon me, I was the one who made the foolish choice. So, I am already very satisfied to be able to stay by her side like this. Don't pity me because I am not pitiful. Oriton nodded again. Actually, I am envious of you too. Leah curled his lips proudly, waving his large tail behind him. Of course you should be envious of me because I am the happiest male in this world, other than Elvis. Oriton looked at Lee's tail in confusion, asking, You are clearly a fully evolved orc. Why do you always pretend to be a half-orc? Leah looked at Oriton as if he was looking at an idiot, replying, Of course it's because my Mingming likes my tail. Oriton thought for a moment, then asked again, Then today the people in Solder suddenly started pretending to be half-orcs, wagging their tails and revealing their beast ears, all to please Gu Mingming? Leah nodded, replying, Should be. But their efforts are futile. My Mingming only likes a pure white tail and a black tail. Oriton remained silent for a moment before slowly transforming his own tail. A pure white tail and a black tail? Wasn't that referring to his tail? Oriton did not say a word, only focusing on how Leah changed his knife to deal with the prey, then memorizing every detail. His eyes drifted to Gu Mingming from time to time, only to realize that her eyes seemed to only see Elvis. If Elvis could become Gu Mingming's first partner because he had a black tail. If Leah could become Gu Mingming's beast pet because he had a white tail. Then, since he had a black and white tail, did that mean he could become the third happiest male in the world? Leah sliced the meat and started placing it into the pot. Everyone was given a pair of chopsticks made of twigs and a small bowl. The water was boiling just right. Leah had sliced the meat until it was as thin as a cicada's wing and it was cooked immediately. Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah all started eating, but only Oriton was holding onto 2 pieces of wood, not knowing what to do. He imitated how Leah and Elvis held the chopsticks, but in his nervousness, he heard a cracking sound. The chopsticks broke. Gu Mingming looked up and smiled gently. It's alright, Elvis and Leah were the same when they first used chopsticks. You're just not used to it. As she spoke, Gu Mingming scooped a piece of meat from the pot with her chopsticks and placed it in Oriton's bowl. Is this your first time eating cooked food? Try it and see if it suits your taste. Chapter 426. Oriton's face flushed red instantly and his mouth felt like it was on fire. Looking at Gu Mingming's expectant gaze, he nodded his head stiffly and said, Delicious. But Gu Mingming could clearly feel Oriton's stubbornness. How should he put it? Gu Mingming was just purely bad. She knew that people in the beast world did not eat chili and these 2 pieces of meat were definitely Oriton's first taste of chili. She was indeed looking forward to it, but she was looking forward to seeing Oriton's reaction after being spiced by the chili. Who knew that this fellow actually had no reaction at all? Actually, it wasn't that there weren't any. His eyelids twitched uncontrollably, and his eyes were bloodshot, giving off a funny and ferocious feeling. Gu Mingming was a little disappointed when she did not see the reaction she had expected. However, she still passed a bowl of water to Oriton and said, Don't force yourself if you are not used to chili. Drink some water and calm down. Oriton was still expressionless, but when he took the bowl of water, he looked at Gu Mingming hesitantly. Gu Mingming smiled. Don't worry, it's clean water. There's nothing strange in it. Oriton replied with a single syllable, then gulped down all the water in the bowl. Wiping his mouth with his arm, he passed the bowl to Gu Mingming. More. Gu Mingming was just about to take the bowl when Leah walked over while wagging his tail. Hey, are you the beast deity? Oriton did not understand why Leah would ask such a question, but the answer was obviously not the case, so he shook his head honestly. Leah hugged Gu Mingming's waist with one arm and took over the water bowl from her hand with the other. He threw it back into Oriton's arms and then forcefully stuffed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mingming instinctively hugged Lee's tail and stroked it twice. Leah sighed in comfort before continuing to look at Oriton. My Gu Mingming is the messenger of the beast deity, the biological daughter of the mighty beast deity. Other than the beast deity, who would dare to order her around? I'm warning you, if I see you ordering my family's Meng Meng around again, I'll put you into the pot and eat you. Only now did Oriton realize what he had just done. In the beast world, how could there be a female taking care of a male? Even the babies were taken care of by their fathers. How could he? I'm sorry. Oriton lowered his head. His tone was sincere, and his face was expressionless. Gu Mingming felt rather awkward and said, Aya, it's actually nothing much. He's a guest and doesn't know where we keep our things. It's rude of him to touch anything he wants. It's normal for him to let me take it. It's fine, there's no need to apologize. Gu Mingming patted Li's chest to soothe his breathing. Then she turned around and smiled at Elvis, who was already clenching his fists and ready to strike. Finally she pointed at the huge water tank not far away and said, There, the water is all over there. You can go get it yourself, don't stand on ceremony. Oriton raised his head and asked, Aren't you going to chase me away? Gu Mingming retorted, Why should I chase you away? Oriton was silent. He seemed to be troubled by this problem as well. After thinking for a long time he said, I don't know how to say nice things, I don't know how to coax you like he does, and I don't know how to curry favor with you like he did. I don't know how to order you around. Chapter 427. Oriton was dazzled by Gu Mingming's smile. In his memory, no female had ever smiled at him like that before. When he was weak, the females always chased him away with a look of disdain, not allowing him to get close to them. Even though he was the one who laid there to bask in the sun first, and they were the ones who came later. Later on, as he grew stronger, the females' attitude towards him gradually softened. After he reached the peak of 3rd level, females from various tribes started to smile at him and invite him to become partners. But he only felt that their smiles were disgusting and made him feel very uncomfortable. So he did not even say a word of rejection and just turned around to leave. Later on, he himself did not know why, but more and more females expressed their affection to him. It seemed that those who dared to confess were all the first beauties of each tribe. Or maybe, they were really beautiful? Oriton even started to doubt his own sexual orientation. If not, why did he only feel annoyed and disgusted when so many females, whom males flocked to, expressed their affection to him? But luckily he realized that he was not only annoyed by females, but also by males. But even so, he still came to Sauter's beauty pageant every year. He did not want to become partners, nor did he want to join a tribe. He just came to meet someone. He did not know what the meaning of his actions were. Perhaps he just wanted to know that he was not an anomaly, that there was another person in this world who had almost the same experience and background as him, but had overcome all the obstacles and stood at the top of the world against the light. He started to imitate that person's behavior and way of doing things unconsciously. He thought that he would always be like this. But he did not expect the change to come so suddenly. One day the ice on that person's body seemed to melt into water, nourishing his dried-up soul. His eyes were no longer cold and indifferent, his lips were no longer curled up with killing and bloodlust, his world was no longer only destruction and subversion. Oriton really wanted to know, how did such a person who was as cold as iron become like this? Looking up, Oriton stared at Gu Mingming's smile as if he had the answer. Look again and I will gouge your eyes out. Leah bore a grudge against Oriton for calling him a despicable. With a sweep of his large tail, he swept Gu Mingming back into his arms and said, Mingming, let's ignore him and go eat some meat. Gu Mingming laughed out loud and nestled in Elvis's arms, mocking Li's narrow-mindedness. Leah was not angry at all, instead he deliberately picked up a piece of meat and sent it to Gu Mingming's mouth in a despicable manner. Gu Mingming opened her mouth, but he took the meat away. Then he raised his chin and said, This is despicable. The three of them laughed heartily. Oriton sat where he was, holding an empty bowl and watching. It was as if he was watching a movie. The plot was very heartwarming, but he could not enter the scene. Gu Mingming realized that Oriton was in a daze, so she smiled and called out to him, If you are not used to eating chili, go and fill a bowl of water. Wash the cooked meat in it before eating, then it will not be so spicy. However, Oriton did not do so. Instead, he rigidly picked up a few large pieces of meat with his chopsticks and stuffed them into his mouth. His mouth was blistered from the heat, but he chewed and swallowed as if he didn't know the pain. Gu Mingming smiled helplessly. It's just eating hot pot, do you have to be so unafraid of death? Chapter 428. After the four of them finished their dinner, the sky had already darkened. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and walked towards the deity altar. Leah stood less than a step behind Elvis, while Oriton stood slightly more than a step behind Leah. The three of them formed an S shape. And from the front, Elvis was carrying Gu Mengmeng in the middle with Leah on the left and Oriton on the right. Even though it was their first time walking together, they had an inexplicable rapport and did not feel out of place. When they reached the deity altar, even Gu Mengmeng, who was basically deaf in the beast world, could hear everyone's whispers. Oriton has really become the guardian beast of the great messenger. No wonder so many females were rejected before. It turns out that he has high standards. What do you know? High standards also require strong abilities. Look, doesn't he look like Elvis from back then? You don't say. He really does look like him. Could it be that the great messenger likes this kind of coldness? Don't you think I look like Elvis when I don't smile? You? Do you think the great messenger is blind? That's true. I've been an adult for so long and I've only become a second-level beast. How can I catch the great messenger's eye? That's right, look at the perverts around the great messenger. Elvis's first partner, he leveled up immediately after mating. It seems like he's not far from the peak of 4th level, and leveling up to 5th level is just a matter of minutes. Beast pet Leah, known as the wisest man in the beast world. Saint Nazir was built from nothing to now under his planning, and no one dared to provoke them. And that newly joined Oriton, he's at the peak of 3rd level for a long time. As long as the great messenger is willing to mate with him, he'll be the second Elvis. I'd be happy even if I have to become a food reserve and never have the chance to mate with the great messenger. Even if you're happy, the great messenger isn't. Moreover, what's the use of being happy? Elvis, Leah or Oriton, which one can you beat? You can't even reach the threshold of a challenge, you only know how to daydream. Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Oriton awkwardly, then at Leah and finally at Elvis's ear. She whispered in his ear in her softest voice, "What should we do?" Everyone seems to have misunderstood. He doesn't like females anyway. If there are no females pestering him to mate in the future, he should thank you for shielding him from trouble. Gu Mengmeng's expression froze. She stared at Elvis with widened eyes and repeated, "What? He doesn't like females?" Elvis nodded and said, "Among all the most beautiful females in the entire beast world, almost all of them have expressed their affection towards him. If he liked females, would he still be single now? I don't even know whose partner I became." Gu Mengmeng's Fujoshi heart started to burn fiercely. She looked at Oriton and Leah from behind Elvis's neck. What a feeling. Yaya, what a good match, isn't it? One was cheap, and the other was cold. Oh my god, isn't this the perfect combination of a domineering facial paralysis attack and a wicked tsundere? Leah felt an inexplicable chill down his spine. He looked up and met Gu Mengmeng's secretly laughing eyes. Narrowing his eyes, he felt a sense of familiarity. It's still the same recipe and the same taste. Chapter 429. Leah followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and turned back. He could no longer maintain the smile on his face. This Gu Mengmeng even changed partners for him this time? Clenching his teeth, Leah took a step forward and knocked Gu Mengmeng's little head. "Don't let your imagination run wild." Gu Mengmeng blushed and muttered guiltily, "How did I let my imagination run wild? I didn't think of anything." Leah raised his brows. "You better not think of anything. Otherwise I will let Elvis and Oriton team up to satisfy your fantasies." Gu Mengmeng felt a chill down her spine. She stared at Leah with widened eyes. When two sides meet, there is no future. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng wrapping her arms around Elvis's neck tightly. She looked like a child afraid of her beloved doll being snatched away. He said with jealousy, "So Elvis is your precious baby and I am the wild grass by the roadside? Do you despise me so much that you have to push me to others? No female dares to want me, so you set your sights on males?" Gu Mengmeng's fantasies were actually just a wicked hobby to satisfy her own hobbies. She did not really want to do anything. Of course, unless both parties were willing. But towards Leah she still felt a sense of guilt. So every time Leah acted like a Samoyed abandoned by its owner, Gu Mengmeng would be so cowardly that she could not do anything about it. Sighing, she said, "I didn't really do anything. I just thought about it." Leah bit his lower lip and looked at Gu Mengmeng sadly. He hesitated and hesitated. Slowly he opened his mouth to ask, If I am willing to cooperate, will you be happy?" What? Gu Mengmeng was always the type of person who would become bolder the more cowardly she was. Once you played for real, she would immediately become a coward. Leah bit his lower lip. His eyes seemed to be clouded with humiliation. He forced a smile that made one's heart ache. "It's all right. As long as you like it, I will do it." With that, Leah turned around and walked towards Oriton. His huge tail drooped and dragged on the ground. It was stained with dust and turned black, but Leah did not seem to notice. Gu Mingming was extremely nervous. She was just playful and wanted to satisfy her little fantasy. She did not really want Leah to tease Oriton. Leah, don't be rash. Gu Mingming reached out her Erkong hand and shouted. Leah stopped in his tracks and did not turn back. His voice was filled with sorrow and despair. Anyway, you don't like me anymore. It's worth it to use this body to make you happy one last time. Gu Mingming's hair stood on end. What the hell? The last time? Was he planning to make it last forever and pass it down forever? Don't you. Like that. I won't think about it anymore. Calm down, calm down. Gu Mingming felt that she was speaking incoherently. However, Li's shoulders trembled as if he was trying to hold back his sobs. He lifted one leg with difficulty and continued walking forward. Anyway, I'm just a person who's being despised. The fate of a beast pet is to please the female. As long as you're happy. Anyway, you don't like me. I like you. Gu Mingming's brain heated up and she blurted out. After saying that, she instinctively turned around to look at Elvis. She felt as if she was caught in the act. She wanted to explain, but she saw Leah turning around and looking at her with eyes brimming with tears. It was a feeling of survival in a desperate situation. He looked at Gu Mingming in a daze as if he was not sure at all. Gu Mingming's explanation was stuck in her throat. She could not say it out loud. Aside from the topic. Chapter 430. Mingming, what did you say just now? Say it again? Li's gaze shone. That pair of loving eyes contained thousands of strands of infatuation, entangling Gu Mingming's heart. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and said, Stop fooling around and come back quickly. Everyone is watching. Leah looked down and gave a bitter smile, saying, How much did I desire for you to hallucinate? Why would you say you like me? You obviously despise me, hate me, and think of ways to get rid of me every day. Why would you say you like me? Turning around, Leah continued to walk towards Oriton with difficulty. Gu Mingming felt as if she could hear Xuanhuan's background music from Charlotte's Troubles. Snowflakes fluttering, the north wind howling. I like you. Gu Mingming hardened her heart and shouted at the top of her lungs, Leah, I like you. So get your ass back here now. If you take another step forward, I will ask Elvis to break your legs. Leah turned around and smiled at Gu Mingming. His voice was a little choked up as he said, Mingming, I finally heard you say you like me again. With that, Leah transformed into a snow fox and curled himself into a ball. He followed Gu Mingming's instructions and really rolled back to Gu Mingming's side. Lying on the ground, Leah transformed into a human again and held onto Gu Mingming's little foot lightly. He placed it by his lips and kissed it, saying, Mingming, I'm finally back. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat and she wanted to retract her foot. But Leah held onto her ankle firmly and refused to let go. He looked up and said, This time you said you like me and asked me to roll back. So, you can't push me away anymore, understand? Mm? Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's neck tightly. She really wanted to explain to Elvis that, it's not what you think, but she could not bring herself to say it. She swung her ankle and said, You're the witch doctor of Saint Nazir, how could you make yourself look so pathetic? Hurry up and stand up. Leah smiled faintly and stood up seductively. After this round of transformation, that pure white tail became white and spotless again. It was fluffy and had a firm texture. Although it swayed slowly, it created a pleasing curve every time it swayed. Standing beside Gu Mingming, he said, Whatever you say, I'll listen to you. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and buried her face into Elvis's neck, refusing to look up or look at anyone. The whispers below the stage had reached a point where you could hear people talking, but you couldn't make out what they were saying. Gu Mingming's mind was in a mess and she could not think. Gu Mingming's mind and she could not. Leah was in charge of identifying whether the food brought back by the males was really chili. He eliminated a portion of the ones that were fake and compared the quantity of the rest. The top 5 who of the most sins had the most won them successfully. However, no one knew what these chilies could be used for, so they were all given to Gu Mingming. Wow. Lingo. Oh. On this day, none of the level 3 beasts who were eager to join the Qing Mingming family after seeing that Oriton had successfully joined, dared to request to join. Chapter 431. After settling the official matters and returning to the small stone house, Elvis placed Gu Mingming beside the bed. However, Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck tightly and refused to let go. She did not speak nor look at him, just burying her head and hugging onto Elvis's neck tightly. Elvis sighed and said, I'm not angry, don't worry. Gu Mingming looked up with a face full of tears and sobbed, "How can I not be angry? If it was me, I would have gone mad with anger, but I just blurted it out in a moment of hot-headedness. Seeing that Gu Mingming was crying, Elvis panicked even more. He did not dare to put her down again and could only hug her in his arms. He comforted her gently while wiping away the tears on her face. "I was mentally prepared for Leah to mate with you a long time ago. In the future, I will no longer be your one and only, so I will still feel a little disappointed. But I'm not angry, really not angry. It's always good to have one more person who can protect you. I don't want. Gu Mingming kicked her legs and cried like she was throwing a tantrum. "I don't want anyone else other than you, don't want, no. Elvis patted Gu Mingming's back helplessly and comforted her. "Alright, don't want if you don't want. Don't cry. Under Elvis's comforting, Gu Mingming only calmed down after a long while. Only then did she realize that Leah and Oriton were sitting at the door, staring straight at her. Biting her lower lip, Gu Mingming avoided Lee's gaze and said softly, "Leah, you want to apologize to me again?" Leah walked to Gu Mingming while wagging his big tail and smiled slyly and ambiguously. He pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "Crying so much for me, I thought I was going to die." Hearing Lee's words, the tears that she had finally stopped started flowing down again like a broken string. Leah sighed in panic and helplessness and said, Alright, don't cry. Actually, the one who should apologize is me. I shouldn't have troubled you like that, don't be angry, alright?" Gu Mingming wiped her tears and looked up. Her clear eyes were like the sky that had been washed by water, clean and transparent. Leah smiled naughtily and said, "See, it's all that fellow who shared food with us. Everyone was itching to join your family. You're kind and easily soft-hearted. What if you can't resist one of them and attract more trouble? That's why I thought of such a way to make a ruckus, to give those delusional males a wake-up call. Even an outstanding male like me hasn't received your favor. At this time, if anyone dares to fight with me for your favor, I will tear them apart alive. Once they won't dare to disturb you. I'm guessing that they're all waiting for me to mate with you before joining our family." For a moment, Gu Mingming's brain broke down and she stared at Leah in a daze, not saying a word. Leah cleared his throat and said, "If you are angry, then punish me. But let me say this first. Although it was wrong of me to mess with you, you were the one who asked me to roll back. So you can hit me and punish me, but don't kick me out." Gu Mingming slowly reached out her little hand and twisted Lee's ear. "So you were purposely playing with me just now?" Leah cried out in pain from the pinch, but he did not dodge or evade. He just let her pinch him as he begged for mercy and shouted in pain. Oriton stood at the door with a poker face. He really couldn't understand. Was he really that scary? Why was she so scared when Leah just moved closer to her? Out of topic. "Leah, the 3 cruelest words in the world are not, 'I don't love you,' or, 'I've never loved you,' but, 'I'm sorry,' after, 'I like you,' but what could he do? In the end, I couldn't bear to make things difficult for you." Chapter 432. Leah rubbed his ears and sat opposite Gu Mingming. He complained, "When you like me, you ask me to scram back. When you get angry, you pinch my ears, sobs. Gu Mingming, you are so heartless." Gu Mingming straightened her neck and said, "Saying I like you is just a temporary measure. If not, wouldn't a good and innocent tiger like me be taken away by a bad fox like you?" Leah looked at Gu Mingming in disdain and said, "Isn't it to match your bad taste?" Gu Mingming placed her hands on her hips and shouted, "I didn't." Leah smiled devilishly with a, "I don't believe you" expression. He covered his mouth and laughed, Alright, if you say you didn't, then I didn't." Gu Mingming's face darkened. She looked up at Elvis and said, "Hubby, you have to believe me. I really didn't." Elvis's gaze was a little complicated. He looked at Leah and then at Gu Mingming and said, "You have a criminal record." Gu Mingming almost bit off her own tongue. Heavens, please send a bolt of lightning to strike her to death. What was wrong with her back then? She actually confessed to Elvis that she suspected he and Leah were a couple. Xiaomeng. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming's red and swollen eyes and said, "I will go boil some water and give you a good bath. Then you can have a comfortable sleep." Gu Mingming nodded and then shook her head, saying, "I don't want you to leave me. Even one step is fine." Elvis was helpless and said, "Then you can climb onto my back and I will carry you to boil water, alright?" "Yeah." Like an octopus, Gu Mingming climbed onto Elvis's back from his arms. She wrapped her arms around his neck and laid on his broad back, muttering softly, "I won't let go of you even if I die, so don't even think of leaving me behind." Elvis was stunned and laughed, Silly girl, why would I leave you behind? Gu Mingming did not say anything. She just bit her lower lip and clung onto Elvis's shoulder tightly, unwilling to let go. Elvis did not say anything and just went out to get water to start the fire. Leah very sensibly brought Oriton out of the stone house and into the night sky outside. He shook his tail and began to release his pressure. Oriton looked at him and asked, "Why do you say that?" Leah turned his head and revealed a surprised smile at Oriton. "Even you could tell?" Oriton nodded. Oriton nodded and said, "If you just want to prevent someone from confessing his love to Gu Mingming, killing them would be a simpler and more effective method. This move of yours is too roundabout and troublesome. It's not your and Elvis's usual style." Leah nodded approvingly. "Not bad, your observation skills are quite good." Oriton did not understand and asked, "Why would you say that?" Leah was silent. His smile was faint and somewhat sorrowful. After a long while, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "Solder is a place that makes me suffocate and she is the only oxygen in this world. If I don't hear her say that she likes me, I might not be able to hold on." Oriton more or less knew about Lee's banishment. Although it was not detailed, he could roughly understand it. Without any expression on his face, Oriton placed his hand stiffly on Lee's shoulder and patted it mechanically to comfort him. Leah glanced at him and smiled. If Gu Mingming saw this, her imagination would run wild again. Oriton did not understand and did not reply to Leah. He just looked at Leah and asked, "But since she already said that she likes you, why don't you take the chance to mate with her?" Aside from the topic, author, calculating with my fingers, I'm going to have meat tomorrow. Haha, meat on the first day of February. Sue is a very conscientious author, isn't she? Come, verify the group number. 4927799273. After entering the group, privately message the administrator and provide a screenshot of the fan value. Those with more than 800 fans will be added into the VIP group by the administrator to wait for me tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I will send breakfast to my babies on time. Chapter 433. Leah lowered his head and looked at his blurry figure under the moonlight. He said slowly, "I forced her once and lost her in the end. Only I know how much heartache I felt when she was in a difficult situation. I will not let her do anything she doesn't like, not a single thing." Oriton looked at Leah and said, "But you look like you are in pain now." Leah glanced at him and smiled. Compared to seeing her cry, this pain is nothing. Oriton remained silent for a moment. "Yes, she did cry quite miserably just now. How much does she hate you that she would cry like that just because you said she likes you?" Leah raised his brows. He stretched out his claws and scratched Oriton's face. Oriton was used to wandering around and had an instinctive reaction to danger. He turned his body and dodged it. When males fight, there was basically no need to ask why, because fighting itself was the reason. On the other side, Elvis poured the boiled water into the huge bathtub dug out from a rock. Then he removed Gu Mingming's clothes and placed her in the bathtub. Gu Mingming held onto one of Elvis's arms and refused to let go no matter what. Elvis was helpless. He leaned against the edge of the bathtub and looked at Gu Mingming. "Tell me, why are you crying?" Gu Mingming bit her lips and lowered her head. She did not dare to look at Elvis's eyes. After hesitating for a while, she said timidly, "I felt very embarrassed after saying that I could not bear the responsibility. Moreover, I felt that I had let you down after saying those words in front of everyone. I was so afraid that you would think that I am a fickle woman and leave me in anger." As she said that, Gu Mingming's tears started flowing down again. Elvis sighed and gently wiped away Gu Mingming's tears. "You have done enough for me. Even if you want to mate with Leah, I have no objections. After all, compared to other females, you only have me and Leah. It is still too little." Gu Mingming shook her head and hugged onto Elvis's arm tightly. "Hubby, I know I was wrong. I will not shout recklessly in the future. Don't be angry." Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's head. "I'm not angry. I'm really not angry." Gu Mingming said, "You're lying? You were still sullen and jealous in the morning, and now you're suddenly asking me to take in partners. You're just angry at me?" Elvis smiled. "If it's someone else, I might be angry, but if it's Leah, I think I can. After all, you like him." The corners of Gu Mingming's lips turned downwards as she looked at Elvis with her big eyes. Her tear-filled eyes looked so pitiful and her sobbing look made one's heart ache. "Hubby?" Elvis stood up and stepped into the bathtub with his long legs. He hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and rested his chin on her little head. "Yeah, I'm here. I'll always be here. I won't leave you. Don't worry." Chapter 434. Elvis cleaned up the mess gently and wrapped Gu Mengmeng up with a beast's skin. Then, he made the fire in the fire pile burn even more fiercely before turning to leave the small stone house. Leah was already back, but he was squatting at the door. Elvis glanced at him and asked, "How did you end up like this?" Leah smiled and said, "Nothing, I just wanted to test Oriton's skills." Elvis sighed and sat down beside Leah. He did not look at him and just said to himself, "Why do you have to endure it if you are feeling unwell? If you say it out, Xiaomeng might. Don't drag her into this, the less she knows, the better it is for her." Leah interrupted Elvis and said, "I want her to change her mind and like me, not pity me." Elvis remained silent. He was in a dilemma. He hoped that Leah could be happy, but he also yearned for more time to enjoy Gu Mengmeng alone. Silence was the only response he could give now. But Leah smiled and tilted his head to look at Elvis and said, "After the rainy season, Gu Mengmeng's food has become more varied and her body is much better than before." Elvis looked at Leah in a daze and did not understand. Leah smiled ambiguously and said, "She has been moaning for a longer period of time and louder than before. Doesn't this mean that she has gradually adapted?" Originally, mating was not a taboo topic in the beast world, but Gu Mengmeng was always too shy to mention it, and even Elvis felt a little shy. His ears turned pink and Elvis turned his face to the side and said, "It's not good for you to keep eavesdropping, be careful that in the future, you won't be hard." Leah laughed and said, "If I am impotent for the rest of my life, won't you be the happiest?" Elvis blushed as if a veil had been lifted. He did not reply, but his ears turned even redder. Leah narrowed his eyes and said, "Did you realize that you are becoming more and more like Gu Mengmeng? If this continues, if Gu Mengmeng really does not want to accept me, maybe I can really pair up with you and perform something that she wants to see but does not dare to admit." Elvis looked at Lee's devilish and flirtatious face right in front of him. He bared his teeth and said with a black face, "Scram, I'm not interested in males." Leah shrugged. "I'm not interested in males anyway, but I'm interested in males that look like Mengmeng." With that, Leah even tugged at Elvis's tail. Elvis exploded instantly and chased after Leah to attack him. Although Leah had just fought with Oriton, Elvis's exhaustion was no less than a fight. Moreover, they were not fighting with their lives on the line, so the two of them were evenly matched. In the end, he was so tired that he collapsed at the entrance of the stone house. He laughed and then fell asleep. The next morning, Gu Mengmeng felt that her throat was extremely dry, so she wanted to drink some water. In the end, she saw Elvis and Leah sleeping together as if they were filming The Golden Fans Family. TSK, they were just short of a field of sunflowers. Gu Mengmeng squatted on top of their heads and used a piece of fluffy grass to tickle Elvis's nose. Elvis gave a snort but did not wake up. Gu Mengmeng then went to play with Lee's ears. Lee's ears fluttered a few times and he fell into a deep sleep again. Chapter 435. Gu Mengmeng looked up and was a little surprised to see Cole, but she did not show any exaggerated expression. She just smiled politely and said, "Morning, what's the matter?" Elvis and Lee's eyes opened at the same time before Cole could say a word. Elvis flipped over and stood beside Gu Mengmeng, while Leah casually propped himself up with his elbows on the ground. He laid sideways and looked at Cole, smiling without saying a word. Cole still had that distant and polite smile on his face. He bowed to Gu Mengmeng before saying, "You don't have to be so guarded against me. Sauter is the Great Messenger's most loyal servant. We will not do anything to hurt the Great Messenger." Leah did not appreciate his kindness and sneered, "You are the previous Great Messenger's servants, not Gu Mengmeng's." Cole's expression was calm as he said, "I am a 5th-level orc and I have already reached my peak. Do you think the two of you can stop me if I really want to do anything?" Gu Mengmeng originally did not have a bad impression of Cole, but he kept coming at Leah every day, making Gu Mengmeng feel uncomfortable. Although she and Leah were not husband and wife, they were at least friends, right? Even if they were not friends, they were at least roommates, right? As the saying goes, if you don't look at the monk, look at the Buddha. Even if you want to beat a husky, you have to look at its owner, right? Yes, Leah was not a husky, so did he not need to look at the owner when beating a Samoyed? Gu Mengmeng took a step forward and said, "I heard that Sauter has always been guarding the flame devil left behind by the messenger of the beast deity, so if the flame devil were to get angry, you guys should have a way to deal with it, right?" Cole was stunned for a moment before he took a step back and knelt down on one knee. He placed his right hand on his left chest and bowed like an ancient European knight. "Great Messenger, please calm down." Cole had forgotten for a moment that Leah is no longer Sauter's Ninth Highness, Cole's little brother, but the Great Messenger's beast pet. It is Cole's fault for offending Great Messenger Leah. Please punish Cole and forgive Sauter, great messenger. Gu Mingming did not reply to Cole's words and acted as if she did not see him kneeling there. She said, "Speak, what are you here for? It shouldn't be just to waste my air, right?" Cole maintained his kneeling position and did not move. He replied respectfully, "There's a female that the great messenger brought over who applied to join Sauter. I can't make up my mind, so I'm here to ask the great messenger." Gu Mingming knew that he was referring to Ellie. Twitching his lips, he said, "Females have the right to choose their own tribe. Even if I am the messenger of the beast deity, there is no reason for me to imprison others. Think about it yourself. If you want to accept it, then accept it. If you don't, then don't. Don't ask me. I don't care." Chapter 436. Cole did not even dare to raise his head. His face, which was always smiling, showed a rare hint of panic. "It's all my fault. I did not know my limits and neglected Sir Leah. I beg for the great messenger's forgiveness. In the future, such a thing will never happen again." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Indeed, such a thing will never happen again because I will never come to Sauter again." Cole's gaze flickered and it was hard to understand. After a moment of silence, he said, "No matter where Mighty Messenger is, Sauter will always be your tribe. When you want to come, no matter where you are, we will go and welcome you. When you don't want to come, we will stay where we are and await Mighty Messenger's pity." Gu Mingming thought to herself, "Io, you still have two faces? I didn't see you talking so well when you were scolding our Leah." But thinking was just thinking, and Gu Mingming did not say anything. She just snuggled back into Elvis's arms and turned her head, which meant that she did not want to talk to him. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and said, "How much more air do you intend to waste in our house?" Cole did not get angry and just smiled and said, "Then that female." Leah stood up slowly and patted the dirt off his body. "Didn't Gu Mingming say that you can do as you see fit?" Cole clenched his fists and bowed to Leah. "Yes, mighty Leah." Leah was taken aback and gave a sarcastic smile. "This is the first time I've heard this form of address. It's so refreshing." Cole ignored Leah and just bowed to Gu Mingming again. "Then I will take my leave first." Gu Mingming ignored him, but saw Oriton carrying a huge object and walking towards her. Gu Mingming waved her hands happily and shouted, "Oriton, are you here to share food again?" Oriton was taken aback. He wanted to laugh but did not know what to think. So this was the feeling of someone looking forward to your arrival? No wonder, even though he was not a member of Gu Mingming's family, he would subconsciously use the word hui in the process of coming to her side. Oriton and Cole brushed past each other. Their footsteps did not slow down at all, but at that moment, they still looked at each other with an inexplicable sense of hostility. Oriton placed the enormous object on the ground, then said, "The beast horn you wanted, I was afraid of breaking it, so I brought it back whole. Let Elvis break it off for you, I'll handle the meat after that. Let's eat hot pot today." Oriton still had a poker face when he spoke. He did not know when he had stopped using facial expressions to express his emotions. Whether he was happy or sad, it would not be reflected on his face. Gu Mingming laughed and patted Oriton's arm. "Hot pot is delicious, but you can't eat it every day. Let's eat something else today." Oriton savored these two words as if it was the first time he had heard of them. Nodding his head, Oriton said, "I'm not picky, I eat everything." Gu Mingming asked, "Do you eat those bird eggs? Leah likes it very much, but Elvis doesn't like it." Oriton thought about it and remained silent for a moment before saying, "I guess I like it. Probably." Gu Mingming smiled and asked, "Don't you know whether you like it or not?" Oriton shook his head and said, "I've never eaten bird eggs before. I'm not sure." Chapter 437. Oriton pondered for a while, then said, "It's all right, there are many parts of my tiger life that are not complete. Although some of them can no longer be made up for, but the part about eating bird eggs, I think I can try to add it back." Gu Mingming patted Oriton's chest in deep relief and said, "You are ambitious, you are really a good tiger." Oriton felt an inexplicable sense of mission and sincerely felt that eating bird eggs was a very solemn and sacred matter. Nodding his head, he said, "Then I will go find bird eggs." "What kind of bird eggs do you want?" Gu Mingming clapped her hands and said, "Young man, you still don't understand me. Why would we lack bird eggs at home? Leah would steal, find a few fresh ones every day and store them. As for the manufacturer, let's not be too picky because they basically all taste the same after being cooked." Oriton nodded his head as if he understood, then pointed at the giant beast and asked, "Then do you still want this horn?" "Yes, I have wanted a rhinoceros horn comb for a long time. Look at my hair, it's starting to get knotted. It's useless even if I wash it. I don't know how many of my hairs are broken after using wooden combs to comb them. Gu Mingming felt rather aggrieved when she thought of the wooden combs that Elvis had made for her. She originally thought that wooden combs were pretty good. Even a good one on Taobao would cost up to $100. This was definitely an antique-level comb, wouldn't it be priceless? Who would have thought that the combs sold on Taobao were all soaked in oil, while she only had the fat from animal fats? There was no way she could soak the wooden combs. In the end, the wooden combs were dry and rough, and there were even many bristles after the water was depleted. Sigh, saying too much would just make me cry. Elvis's heart ached for his wife's grievance, and he especially could not bear to see her lifeless look. So without a second word, he went up and snapped off the beast horn. When he passed by Oriton, he waved the beast horn in his hand and said, "I want this thing." Oriton shook his head. Oriton was expressionless and did not react at all. Gu Mingming looked awkwardly at the scene that was almost the same as yesterday's scene. She smiled and patted Oriton, saying, "Don't take it to heart, my hubby is just like that, he doesn't know how to say pretty words. But the wolf's character is still very good." Elvis turned back and scooped up Gu Mingming's waist, pulling her back into his arms. He sneered at Oriton and said, "You don't have to explain, I just snatched his things. If you are not happy, just snatch it back." Gu Mingming spoke like a serious and earnest old-class monitor. "Hubby, snatching other people's things is not right." Elvis raised his eyebrows and said, "The fact that I can snatch his things proves that I am stronger than him. He can only blame himself for not being able to protect his own things. Seizing the land by force is the right thing to do, why is it wrong?" Gu Mingming was speechless for a moment. She blinked her eyes and choked out, "Then the person you snatched will be very upset." But Elvis smiled and turned to look at Oriton. "Hey, I heard that you are very sad?" Oriton looked at Gu Mingming blankly, then slowly shook his head and said, "I'm not sad." Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's little face and smiled. "The males in the beast world will not be upset over being snatched. Because to us, being upset is the most useless emotion. We will only think of becoming stronger and snatch it back." Aside from the topic, author, Io, aren't you pretty arrogant? Do you think that you are a 4th level now and no one can control you now that your wings have grown? Elvis, yes. Author, don't admit it so easily. Elvis, the beast world's limit is 5th level. I am now at the peak of 4th level. Those who are stronger than me can be counted with one's fingers. Author, counted with one's fingers, this proves that there are still some. Elvis, for Xiaoming no one can be stronger than me. Author, you can be smug all you want. Let's see if you will cry when someone stronger than you appears one day. Remember what you said when you snatched Oriton's things today. Let's see if you will be slapped in the face in the future. Elvis laughed coldly. If not for the fact that your fingers are holding on to Xiaoming's life, I will tear you into pieces just because you dare to talk to me like this. Author, you unfilial son, I doted on you for nothing. Sobs, 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 I want Leah to compete with you for your favor. I want to open a harem for Gu Mingming. Chapter 438. Gu Mingming looked at her own slender arms and legs helplessly and complained, "Sigh, what if one day my things are snatched away by someone? Won't I have no choice but to blame it on my bad luck?" Elvis laughed coldly with a murderous look in his eyes and said, "I want to see who dares to snatch your things." Gu Mingming's heart warmed and she turned into a fangirl. She hugged Elvis's neck and kissed him with eyes full of admiration. Then she said, "Hubby, you are so manly, ah, so handsome, so handsome." Elvis was amused by Gu Mingming and threw the beast horn to Leah. Then, he carried Gu Mingming and sat further away from the fire to prevent her from being roasted by the heat. Leah took over the beast horn, then used a big bowl to scoop some water and began to clear it. Oriton, on the other hand, carried the huge beast and walked out to handle the prey. The rapport between the 3 males did not require any words, not even a look. Gu Mingming shook her head and smiled. "If the harem of the ancient emperors were as harmonious as yours, the emperors would be so blessed." Elvis tilted his head and asked, "You want to be an emperor?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I don't dare to think too much. Is it so easy to enjoy the bliss of having multiple partners? It might look like a harmonious atmosphere, but in reality, it's all about scheming and plotting against one another. It's so cruel and bloody. TSK, luckily I transmigrated here. If I transmigrated into a palace drama, sigh, I probably won't survive past 2 episodes." Elvis did not quite understand Gu Mingming's unit of calculation and what was the concept of 2 episodes. He could not explain it clearly, but he liked to see Gu Mingming beaming with joy. So he followed her words and asked, "Then, Other than the emperor, who else can enjoy the bliss of having multiple partners? Gu Mingming pouted and said, actually, most men in the ancient times could have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Other than the royalty, the rich merchants also had groups of beautiful concubines. Other than marrying those with status, they would also keep many singers and dancers for entertainment. Once they go out, it's even worse. They would have 7 to 8 bodyguards following them, and they would beat up anyone they don't like. That's tyrannical bullying. TSK. Although it's immoral, it's still pretty cool and impressive, right? Elvis thought for a while and pointed at his own nose. Beauty. Gu Mingming. Elvis pointed at Leah and said, the performer. Gu Mingming. Elvis then pointed at Oriton, who was returning with a pile of sliced meat, and said, bodyguards and followers. Gu Mingming. Elvis smiled and rubbed Gu Mingming's little head, asking with a warm expression, rich merchant, who do you want to beat up? After dinner, the 3 of us will accompany you to bully others. Gu Mingming. Ha! Gu Mingming laughed so hard that her back was bent over. She slapped her thighs and said, the 3 of you? Concubine? Performers? Bodyguards? Elvis nodded his head seriously and said, if the number of bodyguards and followers is not enough, we can call a few more from Saint Nazaire, plus the newly joined It should not be a problem to gather 7 to 8 people. Gu Mingming waved her hands and said with a smile, Oriton is just here to make up the numbers. He can still act as a bodyguard. But the concubine and the performer are female. Female, understand. Ah. Chapter 439. Gu Mingming nodded. Elvis said, how can a male have so many females? This is disloyalty. He should be sent to the platform of the deity's punishment. After Gu Mingming was done laughing, she then said slowly, the ancient customs in China are similar to the ones here, just that the females and males have to be swapped. If it was in the ancient times, a female accompanying so many males here should be drowned in a pig cage. Leah walked over while wagging his tail and passed the washed beast horn to Elvis. Then he softened his body and nestled beside Gu Mingming, using his large tail as the back of the sofa while he sat beside Gu Mingming seductively. He pouted and pinched his throat, saying, I don't want to be a dancer, I don't know how to sing or dance, I want to be a beautiful concubine, the kind that specially warms your bed and accompanies you to sleep. Gu Mingming exclaimed in disdain and said, I have Elvis, I don't need you to warm my bed or accompanies me to sleep. Leah was not angry. He sat up and laid on Gu Mingming's thighs, saying, then I also want to be your beloved concubine and guard the door for you when you and Elvis are mating. Gu Mingming blushed and almost hugged Lee's head on the spot, wanting to die together with him. Oriton put down the praise he prepared, then said faintly, I will be your bodyguard, I will help you hit whoever you want to hit. Gu Mingming pushed Leah away and burrowed back into Elvis's arms. She shook her head and sighed, pounding her chest and stamping her feet, saying, sigh, it's fine if the fox is not a proper fox, but now even the tiger has been led astray. I'm not a tyrant, why would I hit someone for no reason? I won't do things like bullying others and taking advantage of women. Elvis thought for a while and said, you clearly said before when you hit Nina, you don't need a reason to hit her. Gu Mingming, Elvis, you always stick together with Sandy and bully Bode, isn't this considered as bullying others? Gu Mingming, are you my real hubby? Elvis nodded with a serious face and said, I am the real deal, I support verifying my identity. Gu Mingming puffed her cheeks and said, I am not talking to you guys anymore, I am hungry and want to eat. Leah tilted his head and said, let me be your beloved concubine and I will cook for you. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes and said, what do I want you to be? If you can't do it, I'll do it myself. Leah turned around and stuck his entire body to Gu Mingming's back. He hugged Gu Mingming from the back and used his furry tail to wrap around her waist, stuffing it into her arms. The side of Lee's face was close to Gu Mingming's ear, his long and narrow eyes were filled with a myriad of flirtatious emotions. His voice carried a hint of ambiguity and closeness. Why not, you become my beloved concubine. I'll also cook for you. Besides, I won't keep any dancers or bodyguards. I'll just treat you wholeheartedly. What do you think? Gu Mingming glanced at the big tail in her arms and hardened her heart. She carried it up and sent it into her mouth, taking a big bite. Ow, Leah let out a wail. That wail scared Gu Mingming so much that she was dumbfounded. If you say you are in pain, then scream. Why did you scream as if you were moaning in bed? His voice was dragged out and even had a twist. Chapter 440. Breakfast was very simple. Leah steamed egg custard and ordered Oriton to punch the meat into minced meat. Then he squeezed the meat into meatballs and boiled them with water. He then added some small potatoes and cooked a pot of potato meatball soup. The main dish was stewed sweet potatoes, but there were only 2 sweet potatoes, one for Gu Mingming and the other for Leah. Elvis and Oriton did not eat this. Gu Mingming used a small bowl to give some egg custard to Oriton, letting him have a taste. This fellow did not let down his own race. He raised his head and poured the bowl of steaming egg custard into his mouth. It was so hot that his eyes were bloodshot, but his face was still expressionless and expressionless. Gu Mingming poured some water for Oriton and said, "Are you a tiger? Don't you know how to cool it down before eating? Sigh, you really can't stop talking. Let me tell you, my son is more experienced in eating than you. I really don't know how you survived in the past. Didn't you choke to death?" After Oriton drank the water, he felt much better. He heaved a sigh of relief and replied, "Yes, I am a tiger." Gu Mingming could not help laughing and patted Oriton's chest, saying, "I know you are a tiger, you are really a tiger." Oriton nodded, expressing his agreement. After breakfast, the 3 males accompanied Gu Mingming to the deity altar again. This time, other than the males, there were also many females gathered. Gu Mingming tilted her head to look at Leah. Leah leaned close to her ear and said, "One of the 5 that were looking for chili previously mated with the same female as the one who won the previous hunt. So the females started to compete secretly to see who could get the most outstanding males among the winners." Gu Mingming's lips twitched. F***K was stamp collecting also popular in the beast world? Shaking her head helplessly, she realized that the males did not think that there was anything wrong with the females' actions. Instead, they were even more passionate than before. That's right, it was always the males who racked their brains to choose females. When had they ever seen females pounce on them? Moreover, it was a collective pounce. The winners could often choose the one they liked among a few females. This was something that he had only dared to dream about in the past, but it had actually come true. Gu Mingming counted. She had originally planned to recruit 50 people and found 10 males in the first batch. Other than Oriton, who mysteriously became her guardian beast because he shared food with her, the other 9 brought along 9 female family members. These 9 female family members also brought their own original partners. In fact, just the first batch of people added together was already more than enough. But Gu Mingming only counted the number of winners and the number of females. The people who followed them were not included. Miraculously, no one raised any objections. Only after a long time did Gu Mingming realize that they did not object because they could not count. So he had no idea how many people Gu Mingming was referring to. As long as he knew that there were still slots available, he could fight for them. Out of the 19 in the first batch and the 5 in the second finger, 3 of them already had partners. One of them had mated with the same female as one of the previous batch, and the last one had found a new partner. Therefore, the 2 groups added up to a total of 28 people. So in this batch, Gu Mingming had 22 spots. Chapter 441. On the way here, Gu Mingming had secretly given Leah 15 small balls weaved with vines. The balls were hollow and Gu Mingming placed some chopped chili in them. Then she asked Leah to pass it to Ian and let him send people to hide the 15 balls. As for where exactly they were hidden, not only did Gu Mingming not know, even Ian himself did not know. This was also the reason why Gu Mingming dared to give them 15 spots. She had predicted that a portion of the balls would not be returned. Gu Mingming took out a small ball weaved with vines and shook it. There are 15 of these balls scattered in the forest at the back of the mountain. Those who return here with the ball before sunset can join Saint Nazir. With that, Gu Mingming threw the ball of vines into the crowd. This is your last chance. Because after this round, Saint Nazir will not be recruiting any more people this year. And tomorrow morning, all the chosen ones will return to Saint Nazir with me. Warriors, I will be waiting here for your triumphant return. The moment Gu Mingming finished her sentence, the roars of hundreds of beasts resounded through the sky. Gu Mingming's sample ball still caused a commotion among the crowd. But Gu Mingming was no longer worried that they would be trampled. She turned around and leaned back into Elvis's arms. "Hubby, let's go home and make a rhinoceros horn comb. Be careful this time and don't break it again." Elvis smiled and nodded. "All right, I will be very careful." Of course, Gu Mingming did not get the rhinoceros horn comb as she wished, because that beast horn was once again broken into pieces in Elvis's arms. Gu Mingming's face fell. She smacked her lips. "Forget it, I don't really want it that much." Just as she said that, Elvis suddenly carried Gu Mingming up. Although Gu Mingming's senses were not as sensitive as males, she could still feel the way the 3 fellows instantly became guarded. Turning around, she saw Cole standing not far away. He was wagging his foxtail that was one size bigger than Lee's. Gu Mingming's lips twitched. Didn't they already make things clear the previous time? Why was he still here? Everyone was embarrassed. But Cole acted as if nothing had happened. He stood in front of Gu Mingming and bowed respectfully. Great messenger. Gu Mingming was stunned. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. What is it? Cole stretched out his hand with his palm facing upwards. An exquisite rhinoceros horn comb was lying in his palm, reflecting the sunlight and looking as warm as jade. Gu Mingming was stunned and blurted out, "Where did you buy this?" Cole smiled and replied, "Buy? Oh, this was personally made by this subordinate. Its appearance is an imitation of the one that Sir Emissary usually uses to comb her hair. However, the details have been slightly altered." Gu Mingming nodded her head and wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. She did not take Cole's comb, but her big eyes clearly said, "I want it." Cole stepped forward slightly and stretched out his hand. "If the great messenger doesn't mind, please accept this gift." Gu Mingming pointed at her own nose and asked, "For me?" Cole nodded in reply. Gu Mingming asked cautiously, "What are the conditions?" Cole was taken aback. He shook his head and said, "To be able to do something for the great messenger is already an unparalleled honor. Cole doesn't dare to raise any conditions with the great messenger. Aside from the topic, as the saying goes, one is unaccountably solicitous." What was the second half of the sentence? Regarding the slow progress of the little baby reprinting me? Does the pace have to be so fast? I just hope that when you read my story you can relax a little, laugh a little, and it will be fine. We are not filming a mystery horror detective drama, right? We don't even know what we are acting after returning from the toilet. Isn't it good to slow down the pace and have fun together? Chapter 442. Gu Mingming frowned and her gaze was filled with wariness. She said faintly, "One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions." Cole smiled elegantly and said, "If I have to choose, I will choose the traitor." Gu Mingming roared in her heart, "Can you keep away that gentlemanly smile on your face when you say such frivolous words? It's so out of place." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's neck tightly and looked at Cole with a wary expression. "Forget it, I don't want your comb. You can take it back to comb your own fur." Cole looked at his own tail and said, "Thank you, great messenger, for your concern. But the fur of our snow fox tribe doesn't require any special care. As long as we switch between our human and beast forms, the dirt will be squeezed out and it will naturally be fluffy. So, I don't really need this comb." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Then I don't care. You can deal with your things as you see fit." Cole was puzzled and asked, "But, great messenger, didn't you always want a comb?" Gu Mingming rolled her eyes and shook her head. "Sigh, males will always be males. No matter how smart they are, they will never understand what a girl is thinking." Cole blinked his eyes and said as if he was suddenly enlightened, "Great messenger, please don't worry and accept it. Although Cole hopes to become your beast pet, but if the great messenger is not willing, Cole will definitely not dare to offend you. Please pretend I didn't say anything just now and accept this comb." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I appreciate your kindness, but I really can't accept your things. I do want a comb, but I want the comb that my husband made for me." Cole was even more puzzled. Elvis's clumsy look showed that he had already failed twice and did not even manage to make a prototype. Although there was a finished wooden comb, the texture was nothing to write home about. But this comb of his was different. Whether it was polishing or carving, he had put in a lot of effort. He had shown it to the females in the tribe before, and even the tricky and arrogant females of the Snow Fox tribe loved it. By right, most females should not reject it. What's the difference? Cole tried his best to be tactful because he already knew Gu Mingming's temper very well. If anyone dared to say anything bad about her family in front of her, she would immediately explode. Gu Mingming acted like an experienced expert and said, "Of course it's different, the difference is huge." Cole nodded his head doubtfully and thought to himself, "That's right, Elvis's wooden comb is so ugly, it's definitely different from the one I made." But Cole was very smart and did not say it out loud. He only continued to ask, "Great messenger, please tell me, which part of this comb does not satisfy you? Cole will go back to refine it now, and before you leave tomorrow, I will definitely make a comb that you will be satisfied with." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "It's not a problem with the comb, it's a problem with the person. Don't you understand? What I want is the thought of my husband when he is designing an item for me, not the comb itself. As long as it's made by him, I like it." Cole revealed an envious look and felt a little disappointed. "If it wasn't for Sir Elvis, I wouldn't have been able to?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, "If it wasn't made by Elvis, I wouldn't want it no matter who gave it to me. Cole glanced at Leah and asked again, Leah, even if it was Sir Elvis, wouldn't it do? Aside from the topic about Leah recently, I saw that many readers were worried for him and there were a lot of calls for Gu Mingming to forgive him. But I clearly remember that in the part between him and Nina, you guys wanted me to write him to death and torture him to death. Didn't you say that if he made Gu Mingming sad he shouldn't be forgiven? Do you guys even have a standpoint? Alright, compared to you guys, I'm the one who has no standpoint. I don't want to see my babies suffer. So I'll give you the process. Next would be the last wave of torturing Leah. After that, Gu Mingming would give him an identity to stay by her side. It would not be a one-sided pestering by Leah shamelessly, but an identity that Gu Mingming acknowledged. They would become a family, but the mating would have to wait because I still have some matters to settle. We'll talk about Lee's advancement after I'm done. Then will my babies be at ease? I want to see you guys laugh and not see you guys being distressed. Do you understand? Chapter 443. F******. He actually dug a pit for me. Gu Mingming roared in her heart. She forced a smile and said, My Lee's hands are used to treat and save people. What if he gets injured? That is such a precious pair of hands. How could he do such a thing? Gu Mingming's magnified disdain successfully covered the stiff smile on her face. Cole replied with an "oh," and did not say anything else. He just placed the comb on a huge rock outside the stone house and said, Since the great messenger doesn't like it, there's no use for me to keep it. Then I'll leave it here. Whoever likes it, can take it. Gu Mingming did not reply to Cole. If there's nothing else, please go back. We have been busy the entire morning and are preparing to start cooking. Cole smiled bitterly, his face carrying a tinge of desolation. Cole knows that all of you did not prepare any food or air for me. Cole has already wasted too much of the great messenger's air today. Cole will take his leave. Goodbye, Gu Mingming waved her hands cheerfully. Then she hugged Elvis's neck and allowed him to carry her into the house. Once Cole walked far away, Elvis slowly opened his mouth. Xiaoming, don't worry. I will definitely make a better one for you. Gu Mingming smiled. Actually, I don't really like it. Our wooden one can also be used. That night, 12 males brought Gu Mingming's handmade rattan balls back to the deity altar. Gu Mingming opened them one by one and confirmed that they were all her handiwork. Among the 12 men, 4 of them already had a partner, while the other 8 were captured by the 4 females on the spot. And these 4 females had already mated with the warriors from the previous 2 rounds. Among them was Mandy, who had already mated with 2 males who had obtained the right to join Saint Nazir. Gu Mingming calculated. This time, excluding the family members brought by the females, they had recruited 44 people. This was about the same as her original estimate of 50. It was acceptable. Thus, Gu Mingming stood on the deity altar. Under the bright moonlight, she posed as God loves the world. Congratulations to all the warriors who have obtained the right to join. From today onwards, you are the tribesmen of Saint Nazir. My family, my friends and my partners. I will lead everyone to a well-off life. Although no one knew what a well-off life was like, it didn't affect everyone's excitement. There was no habit of clapping here, so when Gu Mingming finished her words, the males started roaring loudly. Gu Mingming had been scared a few times and was already used to it. She maintained a calm smile and waved her hands, gesturing for everyone to stop. Then, like the host of the Spring Festival Gala, he said, On this occasion I have another announcement to make, and that is, Gu Mingming's hands slowly swept across the crowd. Everyone held their breath and focused their attention on Gu Mingming's fingertips. Chapter 444. Gu Mingming sighed and waved at Elvis. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before both of them transformed into their beast forms and walked up the stage with lazy and calm steps. Before they went up the stage they even gave Oriton a look. Oriton, who had facial paralysis, was taken aback for a moment before he also transformed into a white tiger and followed Elvis and Leah up the stage. Elvis bent his front legs and gestured for Gu Mingming to get on his back. Gu Mingming was quite surprised. She had originally wanted Elvis to carry her so that she could not reach Mandy's head. But when Elvis and the other 2 walked up in such a flashy manner, Gu Mingming instantly felt that she was much more pretentious. Imitating the European ladies, she adjusted her skirt and sat on Elvis's back. Elvis straightened his body and looked down on the crowd. Leah and Oriton, 1 white tiger and 1 white fox, stood by Elvis's side like protectors. They did not speak but exuded a dignified aura that no one dared to offend. Gu Mingming did not know that at that moment, her image in everyone's eyes was that of a goddess descending to the world. She was so beautiful that nothing could compare to her. Her entire body was glowing with a fluorescent white light, attracting everyone's attention. She was beautiful but not bewitching, delicate but not glamorous. She was like a flower blooming on a precipice, protected by the steepest and hardest mountain. She was so delicate that she could not even be grasped, but could only be viewed from afar. No one could cross the 3 mountains to get close to her. Gu Mingming took the flower garland she made and placed it on Mandy's head. In the name of the messenger of the beast deity, I announce that the champion of this year's most beautiful female competition is Mandy. Not only is she the most beautiful female in Saint Nazir, she is also the most beautiful female in the beast world. What? Mandy was so shocked that she could not speak. She was no longer the most beautiful female in the tribe? She was the most beautiful female in the beast world? And appointed by the messenger of the beast deity? Gu Mingming sat on Elvis's back and hugged Mandy gently. I hope that you not only have a beautiful appearance but also a kind heart. Cherish your partner like you cherish your own body. If you can do it, you will become even more beautiful. Mandy nodded with tears in her eyes. Lord Emissary, I can definitely do it. Gu Mingming smiled in satisfaction before releasing Mandy's hand. Tomorrow morning, all the tribesmen of Saint Nazir shall follow me back to the tribe. Yes. 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 The deafening roar gave Gu Mingming a response. Gu Mingming patted Elvis's back lightly and he understood that it was over. So, he carried Gu Mingming down the altar and walked towards the stone house with his head held high and chest puffed out. Halfway there, Gu Mingming laughed out loud and said, Hey, how long are you guys going to be so stubborn? There's no one else here. Let's change back. This is so awkward. I feel like I'm an animal trainer in a circus. Leah was the first to transform back into his half-orc form and carried Gu Mingming from Elvis's back. Then Elvis also transformed back into his human form and carried Gu Mingming into his arms. Oriton did not have much of a presence. He stood silently behind Elvis and Leah and transformed back into his human form. Leah knew that Gu Mingming did not like others to expose certain parts of her body, so he had long prepared beast skin dresses for the 3 of them and immediately wore them after transforming. Chapter 445. Gu Mingming counted with her fingers and smiled like a nouveau riche. She snickered. 16. Elvis did not understand. He looked at Leah and then at Gu Mingming. 16 what? Females. Gu Mingming kicked her legs in excitement. We've earned big this time. Oh my god, bringing back 16 females in one go. Every single one of them is a complete female and they're all the top beauties in their respective tribes. Just thinking about it makes me happy. So many? Elvis was clearly shocked. He looked at Leah. Seeing him nod, he looked at Gu Mingming. Xiaoming, you're too amazing. There's never been a tribe that could have so many complete females at the same time. Gu Mingming used her thumb to scratch her nose. She said proudly, That's right. Don't you know what kind of person your wife is? Messenger of the beast deity? Mighty One. Gu Mingming specially emphasized the word, Mighty One. She could not help but laugh. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. Now Saint Nazir will become the biggest tribe very soon. Elvis did not understand. Didn't you just take in 50 people? Gu Mingming stretched out a finger and waved it, making a no expression. She said, Guess how many males will be rushing to mate with the 16 females we are bringing away tonight and get the quota to follow us? Elvis shook his head. He did not know. Gu Mingming asked again. Guess how many males will come after hearing the news that Saint Nazir has 16 complete females? Elvis shook his head again. He did not know. Gu Mingming frowned. She snorted. Why don't you know anything? Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's little face with a smile and said, I only know that with 16 complete females in Saint Nazir, you can disperse the covetous gazes of those single males in the tribe. Bring them back. There's one less partner to mate with. It's best if all the mating problems in the tribe are solved. Then I'll be at ease. Gu Mingming burst out laughing. She pouted. Annoying. How am I so popular? Not everyone in the world likes me. Elvis held Gu Mingming's face. He kissed her cheeks. Yes, you're the only one I like in my entire world. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat and the expression on her face melted from smiling. She melted into a puddle of water and melted into Elvis's arms. The next morning, when everyone set off in the opposite direction, Cole brought along the snow foxes to send them off. He brought along 7 to 8 beast skin bags filled with rhinoceros-like beast horns. Gu Mingming wanted to reject, but Cole said, This is a gift from Sauter to the mighty messenger and not from me personally, so please accept it. Gu Mingming could not reject them, but after thanking everyone she handed it over to Leah and asked him to arrange for someone to keep it for her. But as soon as he turned around, damn it, his nose started to bleed. Up to 100 snow foxes were wagging their furry tails in front of Gu Mingming. Their fox ears quivered and their little claws played around with their ears from time to time. If not, they would stick out their little tongues and lick them lightly. Chapter 446. Mingming, the little wolves are still waiting for us at home, Leah said sourly. Gu Mingming looked at that little dodgy and thought about her 4 sons. She clenched her teeth and said, "Everyone attack." Everyone looked at each other. Elvis carried Gu Mingming on his shoulder and shouted, "Move out." His deep voice was deafening. After hundreds of responses, a group of people left Sauter in a mighty manner. Cole stared at the disappearing back view of Gu Mingming and the rest. He lowered his head and thought for a moment. So she really likes the fox's tail. If I had used this earlier, maybe I could have kept the great messenger here? On the other hand, not far from Sauter, the group entered the forest. There were trees here to provide shade and it was relatively easier for the females. Although it was a slight detour, Elvis was very happy. Every day that he could delay his return was one day. Once he returned to Saint Nazaire, those 4 ancestors that he could not even scold would snatch his wife away. They were such terrifying opponents. This was the first time in his life that he could not gain any advantage even when he teamed up with Leah. As long as there was a conflict with those 4 demons, his wife would unconditionally stand on their side regardless of whether they were right or wrong. Even if she did not understand what they were saying, it did not hinder her from sharing a common enemy. If there was anything that Elvis regretted in his life, it would be believing in that damned rumor. To make Gu Mingming love him more, he made her pregnant and gave birth to those 4 damned fellows. Did she come out to help him fight for his affection? Did she come out purely to fight for his affection? He personally found 4 love rivals for himself. They did not walk far in the forest before a few familiar people blocked Gu Mingming's way. Gu Mingming raised her brows and smiled. "Io, isn't this Ellie? What's wrong? You're so sentimental that you're here to send us off?" Ellie twisted her fingers in a wronged manner. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped herself. She forced herself to put on a show. Gu Mingming smiled. "All right, you have already sent us off. I appreciate your kind intentions. I will see you later." With that, she led the group to continue walking forward. Lord Envoy. Darch blocked Gu Mingming's path. Although he was ashamed, he still opened his mouth and said, "Mighty messenger, can you let us follow you back to Saint Nazaire?" "Oh, I guess no one remembers who Ducky is?" "Don't worry, you must remember his other name, Official Su Xian. Didn't your Ellie bring you all to Sauter? Then for the people from Sauter to follow me back to Saint Nazaire? Isn't that against the rules?" Gu Mingming was replying to Darky, but her eyes were fixed on Ellie. Darch also felt that his actions were inappropriate, but Ellie insisted on doing so he could only throw away his pride. He lowered his head and begged, "Sauter knows that Ellie is the female that you saved, so they are afraid that you will be angry, so they refuse to let Ellie join Sauter no matter what. So. Chapter 447. Darch shook his head and said, "Lord Envoy, don't be angry. Ellie didn't mean that." Gu Mingming asked, "Then what does she mean?" Darch turned back to look at Ellie. Seeing how she looked like she was about to cry, his heart ached so much that he just knelt down by her feet. "Great messenger, everything that happened in the past was all my fault. I did not persuade Ellie properly, causing her to make that kind of decision in a moment of confusion. I beg you, on account that the 9 of us are males from Saint Nazaire, please make an exception this time. At least Ellie is a female. The tribe will not reject females." Gu Mingming turned her body sideways and said, "Look behind me. Do you think Saint Nazaire still lacks an ungrateful half-orc female?" Darch looked at the lineup behind Gu Mingming and was instantly dumbfounded. He slumped down and lowered his head. Gu Mingming patted Darch's shoulder and said, "I will never give a second chance to someone who has betrayed me. Parting on good terms might be the best ending. Don't embarrass everyone. It's better to leave some face for each other." Gu Mingming's words were directed at Ellie, but Lee's body stiffened. It was the same, right? Once disloyal, 100 times not to be used. Mingming, you did the right thing. That's why you didn't get hurt. As for me, I can endure it. I can definitely endure it. I have the esoterica left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity. Seeing that the big tribe was about to leave without any hesitation, Ellie shouted at the top of her lungs in desperation. Gu Mingming glanced sideways and sneered, 300 poems of the Tang dynasty? I don't need to look at it to write a copy for you. If you like it, keep it for yourself. Ellie shook her head and slid in front of Gu Mingming. She opened her arms wide and blocked Gu Mingming's path, saying, Dream Realm, I know about the Dream Realm. Gu Mingming squinted her eyes. This was indeed what she lacked. The things left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity were too fragmented, and it was very difficult to piece together the complete information. The only thing she could not understand from the fragmented information was the word, dream. Was it a coincidence? Gu Mingming squinted at Ellie. Li bit her lower lip and said, I used to be the Snake King's attendant and slipped out of the Snake King Valley because I was playful. Now I can't find my way back. I only hope to find a tribe that can shelter me. Gu Mingming said, discussing a deal with me? That's fine too, tell me your bargaining chip. I'll see if it's worth wasting Saint Nazir's food and air for you. Ellie clenched her teeth, removed a piece of scale from her abdomen and passed it to Gu Mingming. Ellie's scale was very big, about the size of Gu Mingming's palm. On it, a few simplified Chinese characters written at a kindergartner's level were written crookedly. When your actions deviate, the beast deity will appear in your dreams and guide you in the right direction. Gu Mingming did not doubt that the words written on the scale were left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity, because no one in this world could read. Even the Snow Fox tribe in Sauter had forcefully worshipped the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty as a sacred relic for 1,000 years. Also, that weird English version of Little Apple was really imaginative. Gu Mingming rubbed her chin and looked as if she was in deep thought. She said, This is a fake. The markings on it were not left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity. Chapter 448. Gu Mingming smiled slyly and leaned forward slightly. She looked at Ellie as if she was looking at an idiot and said, Do you think that I can't differentiate the markings used by messengers? Ellie bit her lower lip and her face turned pale. She stared intently at Gu Mingming's eyes and said, Although this is a copy, the information on it cannot be wrong. I drew it exactly the same. If you don't believe. If you don't believe, you can go to the Snake King Valley and compare it with the original one. Gu Mingming laughed and said, You who was born in the Snake King Valley, can't even find the way back and you want me, an outsider, to find it? Moreover, if I have the original Snake King, would this fake one of yours still have any value? Ellie was taken aback and finally started to panic. She said, Then you are not willing to let me return to Saint Nazir? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, That's not it. Although it is a fake, the information on it should be real. Since I have received the information, I will keep my promise and let you return to Saint Nazir. But you must remember, although the information on your scale is real, it has no value to me. I let you come back because of your 9 partners who left Saint Nazir. If one day the 9 of them are injured, Saint Nazir and I will not let you off. Ellie understood that Gu Mingming was not allowing her to treat the 9 of them as food reserves during winter. Clenching her fists, Ellie nodded her head respectfully and said, All right, I understand. Thank you, great messenger, for your tolerance. Gu Mingming waved her hands and said, All right, let's continue forward. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances but did not ask Gu Mingming what the information on the scale was, as if they had a tacit understanding. Until that night, when the sounds of group mating could be heard everywhere, Gu Mingming really could not stand such a scene and asked Elvis and Leah to bring her out to lie low. Oriton wanted to follow but was rejected by Leah. After all, Oriton was not a member of Gu Mingming's family and he could not gain her absolute trust. Elvis and I will go protect Gu Mingming, you have to stay behind to control the situation. After all, we're not here, so it's easy for someone to take advantage of us. As Leah spoke, he pointed at Ellie, who was at the outermost edge of the females. We have to guard against her returning. Oriton nodded, indicating that he understood. He leaned against a big tree root and pretended to take a nap, but his whole body was unusually alert to his surroundings, especially to Ellie's movements. Elvis and Leah brought Gu Mingming far away until they were sure that no one was monitoring them, before they whistled to call Ian out. Gu Mingming took out the snake scale and passed it to Elvis. Elvis frowned in disdain and said, I don't touch other females' things, it's disgusting. Gu Mingming then passed the snake scale to Leah, who hid even further away. I won't touch it either. Among so many tribes, I hate snakes the most. Sinister, eccentric, difficult to get along with, and most importantly, ugly. Gu Mingming sighed and said, All right, anyway you guys won't be able to read the words on it. Ian faintly said, Why won't you let me see it? Chapter 449. Gu Mingming reached out and passed the snake scale to Ian, saying, "Here, take a look." Ian turned his head and said, "I won't look either." "Gu Mingming, so you are just teasing me?" She wanted to yell, but then she thought about it and realized that Ian had suffered quite a lot. He had come to seek refuge with her openly, but now he was acting like an illegitimate child, hiding in the dark every day to protect her. It was normal for him to throw a little tantrum, so she held it in and did not say anything. She just kept the snake scale and continued, "The message on this snake scale says, when your actions deviate, the beast deity will appear in your dreams and guide you in the right direction." Leah was taken aback and asked, "Are you sure this message is real?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, "The words on it are the simplified Chinese used in our world. It is the same system as the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty, provided by Sauter. By right, Sauter should be the race that came into contact with this language the most, but even the people of Sauter don't know how to write, so it's even more impossible for Ellie to change the message on it." Leah asked again, "But you could tell it was a fake at one glance." Gu Mingming smiled and said, "When I was in Sauter, I saw the previous messenger of the beast deity's plaque. Those few words were written with a good foundation and were obviously different from the kindergarten words on Ellie's scale, so it was not difficult to distinguish them. Moreover, the previous messenger had been dead for more than 1,000 years. If Ellie was not by Suzhen, she would not have had the chance to meet the messenger of the beast deity and let the messenger carve words on her body. If the words were not carved on her body by the messenger, then it can only be a fake." Leah nodded and smiled, "My Gu Mingming is so smart." Gu Mingming turned her head away with a look of disdain and said, "Such a big loophole. If Ellie expects me to believe that her scale is the real deal, then she is really stupid." Elvis frowned and asked, "So, have you ever dreamed of the beast deity?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Never. After I transmigrated, I almost never dream. Even if I do, I don't remember most of it the next day. I don't have any impression of the beast deity." Leah and Elvis exchanged glances, then Leah said, "If you did not dream of the beast deity, then it proves that there is no deviation in your current course of action, right?" Gu Mingming did not know how to explain. She nodded after thinking for a while and said, "It should be something like that." Lee's expression was a little complicated. He lowered his head slightly and hid his facial features in the shadows of his silhouette.